Hey Disney friends, it's Amber with Mickey Travels, back again to share with you some pre-planning information that I usually ask for clients to have ready when they're getting ready to book their Disney vacation with me. So this is I call it pre-planning checklist, and this is going to be really good for if you're working with an agent or just in general when you're trying to figure out what's going to be best for you for your Walt Disney trip. Now, of course, this is very similar to using it for a Disneyland trip. It'll be completely different for like Disney Cruise Line, Alani, and whatnot. But since the parks are what I book the most, I figured we would focus on just that. So when you're going through this list and you think you've got it all figured out, this is when you would then maybe discuss with a travel agent, including myself, to figure out what our next step would be. Or this is where you would take this list and then move forward with whatever planning you're wanting to do. And of course, if you're interested in my services, my information's below, completely free, and I help you through a step-by-step process. Let's get started. I only have 6 boxes here for you to check off for your pre-planning checklist. And again, this is just things that you want to probably have set in stone to get ready to start deciding some of the very particulars of your trip, like resorts and whatnot. These are going to be the things you need to have determined and then move forward with that to the actual Disney planning part. So step 1, determine what dates you want to visit Disney World. This can be a little tricky because, like a lot of you, you probably have dates you know you can't go, so that's a big thing you need to look at first. Because if you have kids in school, you'll want to figure out, well, we don't want them missing school, so that eliminates a lot of time. So if that takes that away, and you can only go when kids are out of school, you'll want to decide, well, what about crowds? And then you're going to want to avoid holidays if that's an issue for you. And so that even makes it a tighter window. And I hate encouraging kids to miss school, because being a school teacher, that drives me absolutely bonkers when a kid is taking like 2 or 3 weeks out of school to go on a vacation of any sort and misses like a test or whatnot. But if you can plan ahead with your teachers and get homework ahead of time, then why not? And if your school approves it, that's great, because you're going to have lesser crowds there. And also, while you're thinking about dates, you need to also consider like the amount of time you think you're going to want to be on the trip. And typically about a 5 to 6 night stay, even for first-time visitors and people who come back all the time, is a pretty good amount. So if the crowd thing is your issue and getting out of school is not a big deal, then you'll want to visit some crowd calendars to see when the best time to visit Disney would be. And I usually go with KennyThePirate.com, and he does a complete crowd calendar for the entire year based off of what he has seen personally since he's there, and from past experience with crowds on days previously. And he color codes them by crowds. So if you're wanting to avoid the extremely red, then you'll probably want to stay away from summer and holidays like I've suggested. So put those two together, figure out when you can, a broad amount of time, then view crowd calendars, and then also consider previous promotions Disney has had. I know a lot of people are super gung-ho with the free dining promotion. And here lately, I'm kind of like trying to push people away from planning a Disney vacation because of free dining. It's really going to be hard to predict if that's going to be the same from here on out. Disney has been changing some of the requirements, including you have to have a park hopper, and that's a bigger price increase. Last year, the moderates were only quick service dining, so it's not necessarily free dining. It's just a discount if you have the dining plan, it feels like. So I would not revolve your entire trip around trying to get free dining, because it's becoming very limited, and there's lots of stipulations that are happening now. Okay, so checkbox number 2, determine a budget. It's really hard to go in with not knowing anything about Disney what a budget should look like. So it's really just depending on how much you've been saving or how much you think you can put away. And a lot of people that I work with on a daily basis just casually ask me, you know, what does a trip cost? And that's just hard to really say. A typical family of 4 can stay, you know, 5 nights in a value resort with dining and everything included, anywhere from $2,500 to $4,000, just depending on ages of kids and whatnot. My husband and I have previously stayed with regular dining for 6 nights at a moderate for about $3,000. I mean, there's different ways to go around it, and just depends on your taste and how much you want to spend. So what I would suggest doing is go to the Disney World website, take a look at all the resorts, and just start pricing out some options that you think you would like to give yourselves like a minimum and maximum cost that you think you would want. There are tons and tons of different ways to go about it with a Disney budget because of the different resorts that they offer, in the value, the moderate, or the deluxe. So if you don't think you can afford Disney, do not be scared. But just take a look at maybe some of those value numbers. And I give quotes all the time to people who are just curious to see how much it would cost and try to tell them, here's the process that you can use. You know, Disney takes a payment plan. You only have to pay $200 up front. There's different ways to go about it. So figure out what your budget would be, how much you maybe would want to pay a month, since Disney does allow a payment option, since you don't have to have it paid in full until 30 days before. And that would help you out a lot. So that's step 2. Step 3, figure out how many days you want to spend in the parks. A lot of people want to spend every single day there. I usually encourage that your travel day and traveling, like a departing day, you don't spend at a Disney park, just because of the hustle and bustle, especially if you're going to use Magical Express. They typically need to pick you up about 3 hours before your flight, so that takes a huge chunk of your day. And then getting there, you're super excited about doing stuff, but it's a really good idea to maybe get familiar with your resort, maybe go see Disney Springs. If you have younger kids, you may want to also think about, do you want a break day in the middle of the week? Do you want just a day designated for pool? Do you want to do a water park? Are you visiting other Orlando attractions? So you need to determine, okay, I know there's 4 Disney parks. Do I want 1 day per park? I usually encourage 2 at Magic Kingdom, no matter what your age is. And then that can help determine maybe how many days you're going to stay. If you just do 1 park per day and you want just to do the 4, then you could do the 6 nights and have the first 2 off, or even do 5 nights and do a park in the evening that night you get there. Just depends on, again, step 2, but the budget. Step 3, figuring out how many days you want in the parks. Checklist item number 4 is the Disney dining plan, which is a huge video in itself, and I've got a few on that. Do I recommend the Disney dining plan? Well, if you're new here, yes I do. I've got a few videos where I just proclaim my love for the Disney dining plan. Does it save you money? Most of the time. Does it break you even? Yes. A lot of people think it doesn't save them money, but if you break it all down, it's going to be super close, if not saving you money. And there are various websites where you can check. It does like a calculator thing. You can put in which restaurants you're gonna want, how much it would be, and then compare it to see if it's worth it. In my eyes, if I'm even $100 or so close to paying out of pocket would be the same as the dining plan, I'm going dining plan all the way. Why? Because it's super convenient. It's nice to get to Disney and then already have it all paid for. So all you have to do is scan your band and eat. Once you get some of the added perks, you'll have the resort mug that you can fill up when you're staying at when you go to your food court at your resort. And again, the convenience factor is just 100% the reason why I love it. Gratuity is not included with the dining plan, so that's something else to consider. If you have a large party with you, you're gonna have to pay a larger gratuity. I think 6 or more, it's an 18% guaranteed gratuity. And if you're on the dining plan, you can pay that at the end. You can even charge it to your room or use Disney gift cards to pay for gratuity. So, finding out if the Disney dining plan's in your budget, is it feasible for your family? Do you have picky eaters? Or are you gonna have food in your hotel or bring it with you to the parks? So that's what you gotta figure out. Just think about who's gonna be going and what will work best for your family. And if you have questions about that, let me know. Step 5, transportation. How are you going to get there? I wish I lived close enough to have the convenience to drive to Disney World. Unfortunately, it just would take way too long and too much time out of the parks for me, so I do have to fly. It's not as bad as it used to be. I usually fly Southwest and I encourage it. It's just a cheaper option and you have the 2 bags checked. The only downside is you don't have the seats. You have to wait in line to get your seat. A lot of people use Delta, American Airlines, etc. Allegiant Air, which is really popular in my part of the United States, does not fly directly into Orlando International, and some people think because it's way cheaper, they're going to go with that. So you need to check those airlines that are super cheap, that have all those hidden fares, or hidden fees, like with the extra bags and whatnot, and see if they actually do fly into Orlando International. That's important. So if you drive, you get free parking at your hotel, and you can get free parking to any of the parks, so that's awesome. So if you rent a car, you can do that as well. You can fly in, and Disney will pick you up from the airport. So lots of options to consider, and an added cost if you're going to be flying or driving to consider for gas and tickets, and decide whether or not are you going to put that toward your Disney budget or make it completely separate. You can book airfare with your Disney package and through me as well. I just usually encourage that we look at other options to save you money, because Disney does not quote all of the airlines in their package prices. All right, and our last step is the big one. Book your trip. So after you've gone through and you've got everything figured out when it comes to dates, how much you want to spend, how many days you're going to spend at the parks, is the dining plan worth it to you, then it's time to work with your agent or figure out where you're going to stay at Disney and move forward from there, because there's tons of other things to plan just besides this. So I hope this helps. This is like a pre-planning thing for you to think about. These are all the things you should know ahead of time when getting ready to book. If you have any questions, let me know. My information's down below. I think I've covered all the basics as far as deposits. It has to be paid in full 30 days before check-in. You can get that refunded if you cancel before that 30-day mark. If you cancel after, you lose that deposit. But most of the time Disney wants to work with you, so there is insurance available, and there are ways to just change your dates if there is some emergency that comes up, because they want you to go. So booking with Disney is exactly the same as booking through me, so everything I've mentioned is the exact same with me too. I work with the Walt Disney Travel Company. I work with an agency that does that. So all of these things are going to be identical. So I'll just be there to guide you in the right direction. Have a magical day. I will talk to you really soon.